Okay, welcome back to another exciting episode of The Book Bow. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jocelyn, and
I'm Alejandra, and welcome everybody.
yeah, no, seriously, I'm super excited to be back. As we keep recording these, I feel like we're building a little bit more momentum on like the topics, and we get really
Yeah.
excited. And it's just, I love this. I look forward to recording these every other week. So how have you been? You've started school, you've settled in a little bit.
Yeah, so I think this is I feel like I've lost track. So this is technically now my second full week, but fourth week teaching. The first 2 weeks were a little bit shorter. We were kind of doing little parent conferences and conferences with students just to get to know them a little better. It's good. I don't know. I keep going back and forth where like the time I have with them feels so short, where like I don't know, there's so much that I want to give to my students, but it goes by so much quicker than I thought on Zoom. But at the same time, I don't want to overdo it where, like, I have been a student, I've sat through a Zoom class, and they're not always the most exciting, especially for a little third grader. So I don't want them to, like, be bored out of their mind. But it's good. I love my class. Today they got to go over to music class. It was a little sad because we were saying bye, and I was like, I'm gonna miss you guys. Like, I don't get to be with you for these last 30 minutes. So that was kind of nice. But I mean, it's going. I like to think that we're doing the best we can in this situation. It's exhausting, and it's only Monday. How are you doing?
It's absolutely exhausting. I only teach English, and so we have two cohorts of students, so I see them once a day. And even with that, like, I feel like I'm running out of so much time. I get a full hour with them, and I'm like, no, I need more. I need 2 hours so that we can get through this. And I remember when the school year first started, I was kind of in that like mentality of like, I have to get through a lesson.
Yeah.
And I felt like, one, I was stressing myself out. And two, most importantly, I was stressing my students out. Because I was like, okay, do this quick. Like, and I had to just take a moment and kind of almost like put myself in their shoes. Like, yes, I was a student just a semester ago having to do Zoom meetings. And it's a lot harder to just, oh, you have to click on this link, or this is to take you here, or this. And it's very chaotic, especially for kids who don't have parents at home who may be supporting them, and like the 20 billion links I'm going to send them. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
I've taken a moment to just take a step back, and it's more about, no, I don't have to make it through a lesson. I just have to make sure I'm going at a pace that my students are very comfortable at.
Mm-hmm.
And so even like within the past like 2 weeks, there's been I'm in the middle of a lesson, and I just like automatically I'm like, this is something we're going to finish tomorrow. And I just like tell them, like, take your time. Whatever you get done, you get done. I'm here to help you. I try to walk them through every step of the way, because a lot of, like, they can't type as fast as I can. So I can't expect them to fill out just type in an essay in an hour. Like, no, it's going to take some time with them. So
yeah, and I think that's it's really good. And actually, it's kind of funny because I've gotten lucky where, not that I've planned very little, but I've kind of gotten a little bit better at like timing what I'm going to do. And actually today today was the day that they had like their first like kind of other classes. So today they had music. So I had 30 less minutes with them, and I could just see us, like, we were doing our math, and I could tell, like, I was like, we're not going to get to the next part of the lesson. And I think it's in those moments where we as teachers kind of have to like step back and be like, it's okay if we don't finish, because I'd rather them successfully finish this part than rush through the whole thing and they kind of half get it. So I think it's great that we're kind of acknowledging this, because things aren't always going to go as planned.
No, exactly. I was talking to the lead of our like grade, and he even said, I'd rather my students learn something than try to rush through a lesson and then only learn something partially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, like that was a very good realization. But I think it's like, as teachers, we feel such a pressure right now to be as amazing as we usually. I mean, I think teachers are always amazing, but I think like parents and like people who are not teachers are just expecting.
You kind of have an audience too this time around.
Yeah, I feel like like everybody's just wondering, like, how are teachers going to do it? Parents are now in rooms and or caregivers or anybody, and it's one of those situations where I feel an immense pressure of, can you do this as well as you would in a classroom? And I have several people that are like, oh, how's like teaching going for you? And I like just literally explain to them, I'm like, it's as best as we can do with what we have. I have 2 other roommates that are working from home right now, and we're all on a meeting. My internet just goes downhill. And so it's like, then I'm trying to speak, and then my students are all staring at me, and I'm like, did you guys hear me? And they're like, no. So then it's like a lot of like, okay, well, we have to go back. And so we are doing as best as we can with the circumstances. And I think people need to understand that. And I think there's more people that need to give us grace. Because as teachers, like we understand it. I give other teachers grace. Like people tell me, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're a teacher. Like you understand. But I feel like there's some people who are looking at it from the outside. And yes, it sucks. Yes, we'd rather be in a classroom, but this is the circumstance that's handed to us. Let's roll with the punches. Let's give the best education we can.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of funny. It's so funny how easy it is to relate to these types of things, because both examples or scenarios you talked about, I can totally relate to. I was going to say this whole like Wi-Fi thing. I was teaching. So my plan was to teach from my classroom. So I was doing that. It was a Friday. It was like a 30-minute quick lesson. Like throughout halfway through the lesson, my internet just like cuts off. Like the kids are just blank, frozen. And I was just like, this is awful. Like I only have 30 minutes with them. And we've spent 15 minutes trying to figure out the internet that I just threw everything into my cart, went home, and I was like, I'm teaching from home now because my internet is reliable here. But I don't know. I think teachers, we can definitely be hard on ourselves. And I don't know. It's just, it's just weird, because it's like a lot of the times people think that we're just kind of like hanging out with these kids. Like, oh my gosh, your job is so much fun. But there's a lot that goes into it. And I think teachers are definitely hard on themselves. And I think we give a lot of ourselves to our students. And I definitely understand where sometimes people who aren't teachers don't always relate. A few weeks ago, I went to my friend's wedding, and I was like in the middle of it, like answering messages from parents. And I'm just like, I just feel like I need to answer. I can't like not answer them.
Yeah. I went on a trip about 2 weekends ago now. And we were like at dinner, and I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, I'm over here like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I'm answering an email. And they're like, they literally were like, it's 10 o'clock at night and a student is emailing you. I was like, yeah, she's trying to get into my office hours. Like, there's nothing I can do. Like, I need to respond now. And people don't understand that it's a constant going job.
And I think it's hard, especially as new teachers, setting those boundaries, especially with online, because it's something so simple, like you were saying, like trying to help them figure out how to get into office hours. Like, if I can quickly do this for you to help you, I'm going to do it because I want you to succeed. But it's just so hard, and I definitely need to do better about like kind of giving myself like stepping away just for a little bit, like on my time off. But it's hard, so I definitely get it.
Yes. So let's go ahead and get this episode started. I think this episode is one that is extremely relatable to what is going on, and I think, what did we title this episode? Let's have the conversation.
Which is, I'm still a little nervous. I feel a little bit better after our, I think it was our 4th episode, the beginning of Conversations Around Race, where it's just hard. The same thing where it's like, I think we're going into this with, like, I want people to realize that we aren't perfect, that we're still learning. But I think, how should I, like, I'm open, I'm sure you're open to hearing different people's viewpoints. Like, if anything, we're just trying to bring, I think, awareness and like make it so kids have a space to even talk about some of these things. So I just want people, I don't want us to say something wrong, which is hard, because it's like, is there really, I mean, there's not many wrong things, but you know, it gets very touchy on these subjects.
And I 100% agree with everything you just said. What we're bringing up today is just, we don't want to, and I think we're coming from a good place in our hearts where we are actively trying to learn, to unlearn things, to look at things in a new way, to take in all this outside world and bring it into the classroom and give students the space for it. And so we kind of put this book off for a while because this it's one book. So usually we do like 2 or more. This is one book, and this book is just, it's heavy. It's heavy. It's very relatable. And you need to, when you bring this up, one, I feel like you need to have information at hand for students. 2, you need to work on biases so that you're not, you yourself aren't just saying things and just not having answers, or maybe like giving underlining biases so that students like feel that. So you need to like work through that, and you need to have the proper terminology and really just do your research on this. And I think that's why, and I know you feel it too, Alejandra, we're coming from this place of like, we don't want to do this topic like terrible. Like this is a topic we really, really want to do with the justice, with just everything that we have. And do you want to go and get started with it?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, we're a few minutes in and we haven't said our book. So I really love this book. I recommended this book, especially towards the end of last school year, because a lot of events happened in our country. We actually, very quick side note. So on our app, I can actually see countries that people have been listening to us. Everybody so far has been from America. We are from the United States of America. We are in California. We actually had somebody from Ireland. So I was like, we have to say, I guess, where we're from. But I was very excited about that. Anyways, some events happened in our country. So I was recommending this book because we had just finished our master's project. And I was like, I have the book for you. So the book that we're going to be talking about is called Something Happened in Our Town, a child's story about racial injustice. And it's by Marianne, is it Solano? Marietta Collins and Anne Hazard.
Yes. And we should mention doctors. A lot of them have PhDs, so I want to make sure they're getting recognized for their degrees.
Yes, I think they actually all have a PhD, which is amazing.
Every single one of them.
Something that Jocelyn and I have started to do when we're looking at these books is we look into the authors. So again, we did the same thing with this book. And not that we're wanting, I mean, we've always said we want the book to be very authentic, and we want the book to be written by somebody who's kind of been part of this story. So yeah, they're all doctors. One of them is Black. The other 2, I believe, are white. I didn't get too much specific details into that. But yeah, they all have PhDs. They've all worked with kind of like at-risk children and families. A few of them, like their bios mentioned how they really depend on books to kind of connect with children, and just kind of, I guess, through I don't know if it's like through I'm not a psychologist, I don't know, but like they use books with the children that they are working with, which I think is amazing. And I think that they probably have a ton of experience on like what books children are going to be really interested in.
Yes. So I guess I'm going to give a little synopsis of this book. Should we go into that? Okay.
Yeah.
So this book is about a police shooting. We're just going to go out and say it. Police shot a Black child, adolescent, and it's telling the story of, one, how 2 different children are perceiving the story, how they're having the conversations at home. One is a child who is Black and the other one is white, and what their families are saying about it. And it's a very, very interesting book because it does bring that whole issue of people of color being wrongfully shot.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting in that sense because it's very real. It's very alive today.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I don't know, like Justin and I did not have this conversation beforehand, but I mean, this happened with George Floyd, this happened with Breonna Taylor. I'm like,
yes.
I can't tiptoe around it. This happened. Yeah. These are real people. These are who they are. And it's just a little sad that it's in a kid's book now, but at the same time, I'm so thankful that these authors made the book. Yeah. And I think I'm thankful because when it comes time, I would love to bring this book into the classroom, and I'm glad that I even have this book to talk about with my kids.
Yes. And everything Alejandra said, exactly. It's sad that this is a children's book, but it's also a reality of what is going on. And like we said, children's literature is a great tool that everyone should utilize to have these conversations with students. And so one of the most powerful things, and one of what I felt, what children felt, and I guess what a parent felt, I'm just going to talk about all of that. When I read this book to my class for the master's project, I had students whose parents were either correctional officers or family, or like were cops, or the family members were cops. And so there is a specific line in the book, and it says, he was shot because he was Black. And I had to take a moment to read that. And then I paused because one, it was a research project. So one, I wanted to see the reactions of everybody when I said that. Yeah. And two, I paid really close attention to the students who I knew have some type of family that was in like police officers, correctional officers. And it was very interesting because one, I don't want a child to think that their family member is terrible. Yeah. And I never want that. And I don't want a child to go home and be like, Miss Rodriguez said that you are bad because you are a cop. And so I was very careful about that in that sense, because I never want them to think like, I have friends who are cops. I have family members who are cops. Like, I do not think they're like that all cops are bad, but this is a very, very big issue that's going on. Yeah, and I mean, you can't deny it. Sorry, you can't deny it either. This is a real thing. There have been multiple shootings that have been done by police officers. And even my friends who are cops, sorry, not to interrupt, even my friends who are cops and family members, like they understand that this is a huge issue. And they understand that there needs to be some type of change. Not some type of change. There needs to be a monumental change in all of this, like this entire system. And they even recognize that. And so it's, when I was reading, I just had to think of that in mind. And I think the most interesting thing for me is I gave a list of all the books to the parents that we did for the research project, just to prepare them, like, hey, if you want to read these beforehand and then like prepare your child for the conversation they're about to have, like, go for it. If you want to read it to them, like, so you can get all their like reactions out of it and they don't offend anybody in class, go for it. It's what I basically was saying. And there was a parent who, like, love her. She was very open to every book. She even came up to me and was like, I love this book that you picked. Like, she actually came and told me not to read this book. Interesting. And at first it was like, oh my God, like, out of all the parents, like, I would have at least like expected it from her, but she's like, my child is just a very literal child. And I understand this. Like, it was third grade, and she was like, my child is just very literal. And if you read this book, my child will forever think that every cop he or she may see, because I don't want to like give any detail, he or she may see is bad. And my child will never want to like wave at another one, will never want to say hi or call for help. Like, and she's like, and that's not what I want. Like, if I happen to be in a, like, I have a heart attack in front of my child, like, they need to call 911 to get help, and my child will literally be terrified of that because they will not know, like, they will just think that all like cops are bad, or that all so she's like, I want to have this conversation at first with my child, and she's like, I just don't think he's at that age where he won't take this literal. And I mean, I knew the student is very, very literal in the sense that I said something like, sometimes I make a joke and the student would just look at me and be like, I didn't think that was a joke. And I'm like, oh, like, jokes sometimes like that was very interesting to think about it in that sense of like, and that made me kind of be like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not like not putting anything, like telling kids like everybody that can help you is bad. It's just there's something wrong with the system, and the system needs to be changed, is what I was trying to get across. Yeah. Sorry. But anyways, I talked a lot. No. There's a lot that I think you said that was super important, and it's hard, and
oh my gosh, I might have to edit this out. Sorry, everybody. I'm like, it's hard because I want to think about what I'm going to say. And I totally get that. And I think I think when you were talking, I was thinking like, it's hard sometimes in the position that we are. Like, for example, I was with sixth graders and we were voting in the primaries. Well, they weren't, but I was, like the country was, about who we should nominate as the Democratic representative. And I've kind of always just been taught not to really voice my like religious beliefs, my political beliefs. And then I was thinking, I mean, you have definitely a point where your parents were concerned of, if we read this book, are they now going to believe that every cop is bad? Are like the students who have family members who are cops going to be scared? Which I think is a totally valid thing, especially because we are with kids. It's a little bit different. But then I thought, what about the little kids who have parents who are Black and they have to have these conversations all the time about maybe mom being scared about dad going to the grocery store, or I mean, mom being scared just about her little son going to the grocery store, where it's like it's hard for me to want to, I don't want to say sympathize because that sounds really bad, but this community has had to worry about this for so long that I'm sorry if somebody thinks that they're all like, it's just hard because I don't even know how to politely say this, but they've been suffering with this for so long. And like, this is a career, which don't get me wrong, I love my career. It's not exactly who I am. I love what I do, and I take great pride in what I do. But at the end of the day, sometimes on the weekends, I'm not a teacher. However, somebody who's Black is always going to be Black. Like, this is their skin color. So I think these conversations need to happen. Do I think teachers can definitely be kind and tell parents beforehand? Of course, like, we should definitely do this. And if they want to have the conversation with the kid first, great. If they don't want the kid to be there that day, like, okay, that's your choice. But I think we would be doing a disservice to the kids who are Black, who are Latino, who are whose ever category right now is being like mistreated. Like, it would be bad for them.
No, and I hope that I didn't come across like, oh, this shouldn't be. I just had to like take that moment. But I think it's important that we have these conversations, because I definitely thought about it too, where like I mean, I have family members who are also cops and things like that, and we're such a crazy moment in time. 2020 is nuts. Let's all be real. 2020 is nuts, everybody. But I mean, it's insane. Like, the things that we're dealing with, like I have friends who are Black, and I sometimes ask them things. Like, I don't want to depend on them, but I know they are members of this community. So a lot of the times I will ask, for their opinions, for their advice. I'll give a quick, like, when I was reading a book, I said the word Black, and my students used to think that word was offensive because they didn't know. I didn't know. Who was I to say? I don't, that's it. So I've like gone up to them like, is it offensive? What should be? So I just think, as a teacher and like as somebody who, like, I know members of this community, like, I just think they have been through a lot, and like, I'm sorry, but I have to like, as teachers, we have to stick up for both sides. For these kids who have parents who are cops, and children who are Black and who are scared about their mom and dad all the time. It's a very sticky situation we're in. Yes. And I think it's coming. I love that you said that we have to stick up for both sides. And I think it's coming to this agreement. Like I said, like, I have friends who are cops and who have told me there needs to be a change. There is an issue. And we're like, and those are my friends who are cops, are working within themselves and trying to do their part to change what's going on. And so it's like, I think if we come to that middle ground of working together, finding a solution, to recognizing this is a problem, just because we aren't Black and our skin isn't Black, like, doesn't mean that problem is not affecting us. And I think that's what what happens. And I'm not trying to get like too like political or anything or any of that. But it's just, I feel like there's this sense of like, oh, if it's not happening to me, like, I shouldn't be worried about it.
Yeah.
But that's what's wrong. It's like, it's not happening to you, but it's happening to other people, and you should be worried about it, because where's the compassion in your heart? Where's the care? Just because it's like, oh, it's not me, I'm going to turn a blind eye and pretend like I didn't care. And it just, that's what I think when we picked this book is what we were trying to do within our classroom, is just make students aware of that just because it's not affecting you personally does not mean that it is not an issue.
Yeah, and something that I loved about this book is the fact that it does show both sides, you know? It showed a family who is white and a family who is Black and how they have these conversations. And oh man, I don't want to spoil the book, but I've been thinking about this all day, because like this is a tough conversation to have and to talk about. And it really got to me where the end of the book, I really, really liked it. And I thought about it, like I've always liked this book, but the more I thought about the ending today was, so the two kids that are in the story, they go to school together, and in the end of the book, you see them at school, and they're kind of faced with a situation where everybody else is kind of like very not caring about it. And the fact that it shows these two kids stepping up and kind of showing compassion, I really liked it, because a lot of the times books can end with a like, let's save the world, like happily ever after. But I like that this book showed a very realistic way children can help one another and just being kind to one another.
Yeah. And like, it exactly what you said, it shows the two characters coming together, which I think sends that really, really good message to students, to parents, to teachers of, if we just all come together and find a common solution to what is going on, it's better than just turning a blind eye or pretending that it doesn't affect you, because you know what, even if it doesn't affect you, you should care. You should care.
It's important, because like this was happening in it's their town, so even if it's not affecting that, like it's happening, like kids are aware of it. It starts off, I read the book again today, and it kind of started off where the kids were saying like, we're hearing the adults talk about this, we're hearing it on the news, they think we don't know, but we really do. And I think that's so powerful, the fact that these kids are saying they are aware, they know what's going on. They're listening. You might not think they're listening, but they are. And I think
with how easy
sorry.
No, I interrupted you. You keep going.
No, I finished my thought.
But just to like build on what you just said is, kids are finding things out, and we live in a world that is every information is just so easily accessible within like a couple pushes of a button. Presses of a button. Sorry about that. And it just, do you want to give students the wrong information or the right information? And or not give them, but kids are going to find information. So what I'm trying to say is, kids are going to find information, and they might find the wrong one or they might find the right one. And it's our job as educators, as I'm not a parent, but as parents, as teachers, everything, it's friends, is to help people help students navigate that information, this wide source of information. And so it's like, they are going to be learning about the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, if they haven't, they must be living underneath a rock.
It's kind of crazy now that you're saying it, because I actually had a student who kind of was living under a rock, where her parents were kind of not really exposing her to the news and things like that. And when she was learning it in class, it was very surprising. But I think when I present stuff to my kids, I don't ever want it to be one-sided, but I think in this moment, like, we have to be aware that there needs to be a change. So, and like, in the book, their kind of solution or ending, like I was saying before, like, it's something so easy. I don't want to spoil it, but like, they just do these steps that are just so easy about being kind. Like, that's it. Like, that's really what the ending is about, kind of just being kind to one another, no matter what your appearance is, what race you are, what color your skin is, but just being kind.
So I guess tying it back to what like this podcast is, like really analyzing the book, and really giving you not resources, but like tips on how to use this, how to like utilize this in your classroom. And I guess my way would be, when you are teaching about racial inequality, or inequityness. I can never say that word. This is a great book to kind of bring up. Or when a student comes talking to you about the Black Lives Matter, like the Black Lives Matter movement, telling them like, hey, let's, you know what, you brought this up. Let me read a book to you and let's have these critical dialogue discussions that are really gonna like be informative to us, and really gonna drive us to do research on it, to try to like in ourselves try to confront biases or to try to help in whatever way we can. And so that's how I would use this book, or even just reading it. Like
and I think this book is also really, really helpful. And I think a lot of the time, I mean, I myself was nervous to do this podcast because it's so touchy. This book has so many pages of like resources at the end of the book about like definitions. What do these words mean? You know, what questions might students have? What questions do you want to bring up to your student or your class? And I love that this book has this, because I don't ever want a parent or a teacher to be scared to bring up this topic because they don't know how to address it. So I love the fact that it has those resources there for you. Like, it's doing the work for you. Like, just read the back of the book before, if you're feeling hesitant. It's such a great resource. And then read it with your class.
Yes, first of all, yes, read the back of the book. It has like kid-friendly definitions that you can use in your classroom to really like define race and discrimination and prejudice and all of that. And so I think this book is just is a great resource for that, to kind of begin those conversations about race.
I love this book.
I know it's a good book. Our goal is to never just like tell you what the book is about, so that you go buy it and you go read it and review it and everything else. And so that's
like,
why
there's going to be one book you're going to buy. Like, I think this should be definitely top 5 of books you need to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great one, especially with everything that's going on. It's a great way to show students that you are trying, that you are taking the steps to learn, to like just learn, be informed of what's going on, and you're not just like naive to what and not really include what's going on in the outside world.
Especially because you want your students who are Black to know that you care. Yes,
and that is very important. Like. Anyways, do you want to go ahead and
sorry. I don't want them to think we forgot our 3 questions.
So yes, you go for it.
Who writes the story? I briefly mentioned the authors. Who benefits from the story? I mean, obviously, all of the kids are really going to benefit, you know, especially I think this book is going to be really important for children who are Black and are having these conversations. And I think it's even important for other races, because sometimes they might not have these conversations. And they need to as well, because I think being kind is being able to be aware of what's happening to other people and being there and supporting them and standing up for them and doing what you can to help stop the problem. And the last one's who's missing from the stories. This is always like a harder one for me, because I feel like we pick really good books.
I mean, who is missing from the story? I don't know. Like, you get parents' perspectives. You get perspectives of 2 different families.
And you get the younger children, older children. I think this book is just amazing.
It's great.
All right. Do we do the ending question now?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay.
That's all you.
So our ending question for this episode is, if a student brings up a police shooting in your classroom, are you allowing for space for students to talk about this subject? And even as a parent, you know, like, how are you having these conversations? Because I'm super curious. I'm a new teacher. I want to know how you guys are doing this. So please let us know. We'll post up a picture when this episode goes live, and go ahead and let us know what you guys are doing. How are you creating this space? And also, if you're not, like, what is why did you decide to make that choice? Like, I'm open to have this conversation. And
if you are, like, how are you doing it? Like, I want to know, like, what are your activities? What are your anchor charts? You know, we're teachers, or like, even as a parent, like, what are you doing to bring, or how are you bringing up this topic? Are you like sitting your child down at the dinner table or are you in a car where they can't leave and they can't run from you, and you're just like, hey,
Let's have this conversation.
Yeah, I swear if my parents ever brought anything up, it would be when I'm in a car and I can't run away.
I really thought about it.
Yeah, like I'd be like sitting there, I'm like, I can't jump out of this right now. So I swear, it's smart.
Very smart.
Yeah. And so then our ending challenge too is every week we're trying to do like a challenge for you to, so that we can see how you're enjoying the podcast, or like for you to like share it with friends so that they can see all the awesome resources and awesome ways to utilize these children's books. So our challenging.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Ooh, keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I was really excited because we've started to share. We've kind of started reaching out to authors when we post the book, and we actually, so the last episode that went up when we recorded this was our favorites episode, which is something I was super excited about. And we actually had both authors of both of our books. They were sent the link to the podcast, and they kind of both replied to it. And I think it was just amazing that they did that. So thank you very, very much. So the author of mine was Mina, who did Kamala and Maya's Big Adventure, which I love this book. Like, I'm still obsessed with the book. Yes. Yeah. And I love that you had like a full conversation with your author.
Oh yeah. I literally fangirled. You sent me the message. Because sometimes I try not to link my personal Instagram account and then our like podcast Instagram account, because then I feel like it's too connected, and technology frustrates me sometimes. So I had taken a week of me not linking it, and so I didn't get any of the notifications. And you sent me that, and I instantly was trying to log in, but I had terrible reception where I was at, and I was like, no. And then finally I got to a place where I had really good reception, and I was able to log in. And it was a little fangirl moment when I was like, an author actually recognized her podcast.
And the fact that she listened to it.
She did. It was just a very like heartwarming moment for us to be like, someone actually like they listened to it and they enjoyed it. And so it was great. So yes, this is why we do these challenges and stuff like that. And so our ending challenge is to post a picture of your favorite children's book and then tag us. So,
which is going to be so much fun, because we might find really great books that we're going to want to do on this episode. So I'm so excited to see what
secretly this is a way for us to get more recommendations.
I'm so excited for this challenge though. But I think this is the ending of our 6th episode. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just I'm looking forward to it. Then we're not recording as often because we do have full-time teaching jobs, and we're trying to devote as much time as we can to our students. So we have kind of slowed down on our recording, but still on the weeks that I don't record, I'm just kind of like, oh, I miss it. But we set a schedule, and so we're sticking to it unless something terrible happens. But I'm very excited for the next one too, an election. This is an election year, so our topic is going to be elections.
I'm so excited. I'm excited.
Like I said, I love all the books we pick. Yes.
But yeah, thank you everybody so much for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are on pretty much all major podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. So just search up The Book Boat, and hopefully we are there with the amazing cover art that we have. A quick shout out again to my niece Celine. Thank you so much. I saw her this weekend, and she said she listens to us at work, so I'm going to be the embarrassing aunt. Hi Celine, you're probably working right now.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody. You've shared it too, because she mentioned a few people who have been listening, so thank you. So yes, please subscribe, rate it. 5 stars would be amazing. Please leave a review. Let us know what we can do better. Follow our YouTube, which I believe if you just search up The Book Boat, we will show up. Follow our IG or Instagram, because that's where we're going to post pictures where you guys can answer our ending question or tag us for the challenge. We are at _bookboat. So _bookboat. And like us on Facebook. We are The Book Boat. And that's a wrap on episode 6. Thanks, everybody.
See you next time. Bye.